Hi, I'm Dave Cross, the guy behind Dave Cross Workshops and this website. I wanted to just take a couple of minutes to tell you a little bit about my background and why I think the investment that I'm asking you to make in this website will be worth your while. I've been teaching Photoshop quite literally since the day it came out. Probably the first course I taught in Photoshop was about 2 weeks after it came out in 1990. So it was a pretty short course because there wasn't that much to do in Photoshop and no one really knew too much about it, including myself. But ever since then, that's really how I've made my living, is teaching Photoshop, both through my own company. I've also worked for the Kelby Media Group for a period of time, and I've also taught for Adobe and at various conferences and seminar tours and online sites and just about everything you can imagine that involves teaching Photoshop. And one of the things that I feel is the longer you have been teaching a program, the more people that you talk to, and therefore the more common questions that you get. So the majority of the information that I provide, the training that I create, is based on knowing from talking to many people, these are common problems people face. These are the challenges people are trying to overcome when they're teaching Photoshop. Now on top of that, on this website, one of the things that I think makes it a little unique is that I also encourage the member subscribers to send in questions. So that way, instead of only me coming up with an idea for a tutorial that I think would be useful, I'm hearing that 2 or 3 people have asked the same kind of question, so that means there are people out there wondering about this particular topic, so I create training based on that and based on the feedback and questions that come in. My style is very informative. I like to go through the steps that I think are going to be most beneficial to you to learn. I'll also tell you right up front that even if you're a brand new beginner, I won't teach you every single tool in Photoshop because frankly, you don't need to know them. I also am a very strong believer in working in a non-destructive manner, and that means doing things in Photoshop in a way that gives you the most opportunity to both change your mind and also experiment and try things. I think that's a very important part of learning anything, especially Photoshop, is being willing to try things and see what happens. So we're going to, in this website, show you how to set up documents that will give you more opportunity to do that kind of experimenting without worrying about painting yourself in a corner or making a big mistake. The training that I do here is much like you see here. You'll see me talking to you through my camera and then switching to screen capture to show you things in Photoshop. I like to teach as if you were sitting right there, and if you were, I wouldn't just have you only look at my Photoshop screen. I turn and talk to you and say, now the reason we're doing this is because of, for these particular reasons. So I teach the same way online here as I would if you were sitting here in person, as I would talk to you and then say, now let's look over here at the computer. So I spend a lot of time switching back and forth and talking about concepts, not just do it this way. I'm also, one of my strong beliefs is that I see some tutorials where they basically say, follow these 10 steps and you can get this end result. And while that's okay, the biggest challenge for me with that is that if you just keep doing those kind of tutorials and following someone else's instructions and you get the end result that they're suggesting you will get, that's fine, but it really means you're learning how to follow instructions. You're not necessarily really understanding why you're doing something. So in a lot of my training, I will show examples where the artwork is pretty straightforward and simple because it's not about the artwork, it's about the technique that's important. So for example, if we're talking about layer masks, and how a layer mask works, I'm not going to worry about making the most beautiful piece of artwork ever known. I'm going to talk about this is the concept of layer mask and this is how you can apply it in lots of different areas. As I mentioned before, I've been teaching Photoshop a long time, and that's important, but it's also important to move with the technology. So when I first started teaching, I was teaching small classes of people well before the internet even existed, and now that online training is becoming so popular, I'm really trying to provide the kind of online training that gives people that in-person experience. And the feedback that I've been getting from people is it seems to be working because people are finding like they're learning what they want in small segments. So you don't have to sit down and take a 5-hour class. You can take a mini course, a few lessons to learn about a particular topic, or a small tutorial just to get you up to speed with a particular function in Photoshop. So that gives you a little bit of background about me as an instructor. As I said, I try to use a bit of what I think is humor, but that's up to you to decide whether you agree or not, but also practical training that will give you what you need to move ahead in your Photoshop knowledge. And as always, I always encourage anyone who's on my website to send in their questions or suggestions to try and make this website as useful as possible for every single person. So with that being said, I hope you'll become a member of Dave Cross Workshops to push your Photoshop knowledge to the next level.